Hello and welcome, and in this video I want to talk about portfolio management and turning very small amounts, roughly around $500 to $1,000, into very large amounts, greater than $5 million. I haven't done that. I did start with this range between 500 and 1,000, but I haven't completed these steps, and which it has managed to get up to. So if I was told, hey, Derek, I want you to go through a little, like, how would you talk about the steps one could get to such a level? How would I present such? Well, this is how I would do. Of course, yourself, whatever you do is always your own risk, own reward. So let's start talking about this game, and it is just that of a game. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan. These are guys that played the game very, very good, and they dominated within such. LeBron James. He hasn't had teammates, but he's dominating as well. And quite frankly, if you're in professional sports, you're dominating the game overall. Even though there may be plenty of players significantly better than you, even the guys that are in the bottom tier of professional sports are advantage players in their game. So you don't have to be the best or anywhere near the best. But within the volatility, you need to have a strategy that is profitable. I've talked about some on this channel. Well, maybe I have. Of course, you can look back at some of the stuff I've talked about, and the one I'm using has done well for me. And then you have your strategy and execute it. There are so many different ways in which you can overperform the market, be that of an advantage player. And an advantage player is someone who should, on the long term, execute profits. For example, if you were to guess playing cards, the exact rank and suit of a card, and you were to get 70 to 1 odds on a fair deal, you would be profiting on the long term and thus be an advantage player. So that's what I'm talking about. Of course, markets, I think, especially the crypto ones, is the most profitable game in town right now. Games like poker and sports betting definitely take a back seat. So I'm going to talk about the original stages, and if you start with like $40 or $50, if you can build it to like $500-600, you'd be at this stage at this point. So you could start with like dollars, and just you have a longer ways to go through each stage. So you set a goal to reach a bankroll to like a solid 5-figure score, $20,000, $30,000, maybe in some cases $10,000. And I'll get to that in a little while. But then you increase your position sizes accordingly. So if you're starting off with $1,000, you may decide to risk $100 on a particular coin, or you're making trades worth $20. And then when your bankroll is 3 times higher, then your bet sizes should be less than 3 times higher, but maybe 2.5 times higher. As what I like to do, as your bankroll increases, reduce the amount of percentage volatility your trades and holdings have to your bankroll, but increase it within such. So if your bankroll triples and your bet sizes go double and a half increase, to me, I think that is solid management within, of course, your trades. But then how you're playing this, there's many different strategies. Maybe you're finding one code to go all in with, go long and then get out for a loss, get out for a profit. That's why you have to understand your strategy in any little bit, so that as it rises, you can adjust your wager sizes depending on your strategy accordingly within it, so that you have decent amount of gains amongst compounded interest, as they taught in school, so that instead of making $20 or $15 a day, you're now making $50, $60 a day, and those numbers will increase to 100, 200, 300, and so on and so forth as the markets participate. And overall, there's going to be a lot of strategies. How are you going to profit if it's a major bear market? Within my strategy, when you have the big rises, you'll be having your portfolio go down a little bit, buying as markets go down. So you might be thinking, okay, I'm going to invest another $200 or $100 if the market goes to a certain level. Different strategies like that to account for market conditions. So now let's talk about stage 2. You get to that level, and now we're going to talk about protect and profit. As far as increasing the percentage size, you're maybe betting $15 a trade, then you go to 30, 40, 50. Now you might be betting $400 a trade, and so on and so forth. So that's going to always keep continuing, and as you go higher, that's going to keep on becoming more tighter, or or playing more coins, having a larger amount of hedging and diversification as we move in. But exchanges are used to increase your bankroll, and as it rises, now is a good time to allocate funds to the hardware. So this is where buying Trezor, Nano hardware wallets, or the like, to start allocating some of your funds towards that level. And then to start profit taking. Stuff like precious metals and money. What is that? Well, that precious metals is obviously gold and silver, the physical variety. And money, you can use it for everyday purchases. That's a very good habit, I think, to get into. But that I'm going to say if needed, because if you're like, yeah, I can definitely be buying groceries with it, or I can be buying gold and silver with it, but I already have a lot of fiat, I already have a lot of precious metals, I don't need to. That's why I'm going to put that needed. But if you're in a situation where having extra cash on hand is something you could really use, then that's why buying and for me, I can buy gift cards to places like all the grocery stores and gas stations, restaurants, Amazon, and just be able to complete purchases that way via that of cryptocurrencies. But the key would always be to never hurt your bankroll to the point that it's going to limit you from reaching these further stages. One way of doing this is play your profit as a trader. If you have instant trades and an instant gain type thing, that's when you realize over, say, 5 or 6 days, or even 1 day, or however short period of time, that you literally, by your buys and sells, you gain maybe $1,000 because of just your in and out, sort of like the SYS and all those other ones that have big gains, big falls, big rises, that kind of stuff, in and outs of positions. Oh, I just profited, say, $1,000, now using 200, 300, 400 of it as profit. Well, that's almost like working a job and ensuring just profit that way. So the different ways of looking at it, and for some cases, if you're doing this full time, you're going to be forced to do it just to pay yourself in like the job-based format. But if you're starting with 500 to 1,000, most likely you are able to have income or investment money coming in. So now let's talk about stage 3. This is where you get into a 6-7 figure bankroll, and $250,000 higher, 200,000 in that level, up to, and a low 7 figure for that matter, because stage 4 is where you have multiple millions of dollars. So we're going to talk about diversification, debts, and protection and hedges. So diversification on so many fronts, not only your cryptocurrency portfolio as its whole, but within your entire life. There's no need to have $375,000 worth of cryptos and $8,000 worth of precious metals. That is not diversified, and so on and so forth. And when you have these large numbers, now you can start talking about paying off debts, student loans, any automobile and miscellaneous larger size purchases, and definitely the biggest one, which is obviously usually the mortgage debts. When you can enable yourself to pay these things off, maybe one by one, start with the smaller debts of several thousands of dollars, like $4,000 or $5,000, $8,000 debts, and then work your way up to the point that it's part of diversifying from crypto. So if cryptos end up like going to like the shithole kind of deal, then at least while this was going on, you added a lot of fiat currency or you used it as a lot for money and trade. You were able to increase precious metals. You were able to pay off all your debts, or maybe, yeah, all your debts, possibly some of your debts, stuff like that. And then strategic protection hedges for situations like a cryptocurrency collapse. What things can you do? and so on and so forth. Just now that you have a very serious bankroll, it's time to be very serious about your money management decisions. And I want to talk a little bit about splurging. For if you have, say, whatever your bankroll is, I have two levels of splurging. One, what can you do relatively frequently? So say you have $100,000 bankroll in cryptos and you're doing well enough where you really don't need much money, and you have decent amount of precious metals that adding a little bit's always fine and dandy, but you're fine amongst all your diversification. Spending a few $100s here and there a few times is easy to do. And then big ones, stuff you can only do once until you can correct the problem. Of course, we're not talking about major emergency needs where you have to pull things out, but like luxury spends where you're like, okay, can I afford to spend 5,000 of 100? That would bring me down to 95. You're taking 5% of your bankroll, but you really can only do this once, because if you keep doing this, you're just going to destroy your bankroll via that of, well, diversification and profit taking and so on and so forth. But if you do something like this, and it could be something simple like going on a vacation, playing a big poker tournament, or anything, just whatever, and even within your bankroll, bet I can try to make a big gamble on one play for 5,000, and if it's working, which means your bets are working in, say, crypto, then you can just adjust your positive portfolio from that point on. And if, say, you use it for vacation or something like that, well, it's working if, say, well, you bring it from 100 to 95, and then next thing you know, a little bit of time goes by and it's back to 250. Well, now all of a sudden I can start splurging $700 now instead of $200 to $300 if I want to, several times. And instead of a 5,000, I could maybe do something like a $10,000 to a $15,000 rare, very rare splurge, and always with the same type of thinking, because this is what I do to help myself for different things of such a nature, like accumulating precious metals and the like. And finally, the final stage, the retirement plan. When you have the following, then retirement becomes, to me, just by nature. Your house and car, etc., is paid off. No debts. Your assets, you obviously would have them because you have a good seven-figure value right now. But there's no need to have a good seven-figure value in a $500,000 house debt. And if you have say a $7 million portfolio, there is no need to have a house worth more than, or much more worth more than $1 million for. You talk about those big splurges. Well, when you have 7-8 million and you buy a house for $1 million, that would kind of count. But a house is like the main big asset we all have. And then automobiles and other miscellaneous luxury items, and just a few other things, are the second tier. But having no debt is obviously important. And the way I look at it is, if you have a greater than $1 million worth of precious metals or around that number, even at using a $50,000 number for a decent size yearly income, that's 20 years worth of income. And then crypto portfolio, even greater than 2 or even greater than 3 for the combination of the two. You could have a precious metals portfolio over 2 million and a crypto portfolio of over 500,000, because maybe you're like, I'm not too confident in cryptos as much, and it's safer to have the precious metals. I can take a $500,000 and bring it up before. After all, I did it with 1,000. So you don't have to put this greater than 2 million like it has to be there. But the whole point of it is to have the diversification in place where you have a good amount of gold and silver, a good amount of a cryptocurrency portfolio, and enough fiat where you're able to make purchases. But at the same point, how much fiat do you need? And I really can't say much on that, because how much of your purchases are being allocated towards cryptocurrency? You may not need that much fiat, because if the vast majority of your purchases are crypto based, And if you're ever in a situation where you need to come up with funds quickly, then turning cryptos into cash or precious metals into cash is not that hard of a thing to do. But generally speaking, if you have no debt, how many years worth of investment assets do you have? And if you can have multiple much greater than 20, 30, 40 years, and 20 years will count as a million. So much, much greater, where you are several millions of dollars. So 50, 60, 80 years, 3, 4, 5, 6 million becomes to me very easy in retirement, realizing that smart money management is always in place. Doing stupid things like buying things you really can't afford that really hurts your portfolio go down so fast is not smart. If you want to get a $7 million home, then it might be good to have a very good 8-figure portfolio, like $40, $50 million, and so on and so forth. So that's the way I look at the situation. I'd like to thank you for tuning into this video and have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.